bloody hot. This is the Aqua main drain, where you can hide the tile in the main drain housing. So you can see here we've got tile. The grout lines, when I put it back in, will match up with the grout lines of the tile floor. So this is how you have your hydrostatic valve and main drain in the bottom of the pool and cover it so it still looks nice without that ugly plastic thing. Once again, all custom laid, has to be done to work with the tile lines in the pool. A small feature that goes a long way. You can see it's just plastic with an infill, and then I'll screw this back in. This is just the blue thing to get it out with. Use that to twist it out and in. Yeah, so basically the hydrostatic valve is in there. You screw it in and it's spring loaded. So technically a pool like this doesn't need a hydrostatic valve because we've got no water pressure coming up beneath it like an in-ground pool, but it's a great spot for a low point to put pumps in and everything if you ever have to clean the pool. So that's why you just put the main drain in, and then we just make sure that hydro valve is in properly so it's never going to come loose. We're at De La Rosa New Farm, just filled it up, chemically balanced. As you can see, we've got a custom logo on the pool. Each one of these tiles individually hand laid. A beautiful acrylic window across the whole front. Eventually there'll be lounge chairs in front of this pool for people to relax in front of. To clean these, it actually has to be isopropanol alcohol. You can't clean it with anything else, otherwise you risk crazing or damaging the window. If you ever see one of these windows, yellowing, or maybe the older ones will yellow or craze, the new models don't, built to be, really UV resistant. However, if you clean it with the wrong product, you'll damage the coating and it actually will deteriorate a lot faster. So that's something to consider. To all the people cleaning acrylic windows out there. So we've actually kind of tried to hide the lights. There's one each side that when we have a little return each side of the pool. So we kind of try to push the lights back on as far as possible on that. So when you're standing back there at night time, the lights will shine out into the middle. So once again, lighting plan's something to consider with all of these things, especially when you're looking straight into a panel like this. And then you want to illuminate that De La Rosa sign as well. So if I pushed it too far towards the bench, it'll be blocked by the step. Full tile pools are a lot easier to maintain because if you think about pebble versus tile, the slipperiness, debris is going to fall to the bottom as opposed to a pebblecrete. Things can tend to stick and stain. Every pool evaporates, right? We're in the hot sun in Queensland. So if you think about your bath at home, if you ever just left it sitting, for a couple of hours and then you drained it, you have a big mark around the bathtub. Same thing with pools. You're always going to have to clean that. If you don't have the waterline tile or a tile where that water mark is sitting, it's so much harder to clean. It can stain the pebblecrete. So I always recommend at least a waterline tile, but best case scenario is a full tile because a lot easier to clean, a lot easier to maintain. They look a lot better and you can change the color of the pool. What comes with that is a lot more money. It's an expensive price tag when you're fully tiling a pool. So this is a magnesium pool. All the equipment is ready to work with magnesium. All we have to do here is put the magnesium salt in. The difference being is the magnesium salt is a lot more expensive than the standard salt, but that's the only added extra you're gonna have to allow for. The system itself will still turn over the chemicals the same way as it does a normal salt. Yes, they're more expensive, the actual salt you put into the pool, but the equipment stays the same, which I didn't mention last time, people got angry about. And then, so this, we siliconed all around this. So the way it finishes in here, because you can see through the acrylic, we had to paint that onto the concrete, which it's hard to see from here, but if you're looking in from that way, you have the potential to see the concrete shell. So what we do is, we had a 10mm rebate in here left over. You basically get a mini roller, tape up the edge, roll it with the paint that matches the rest of the acrylic window. And then when you look in here, you see nothing but a gray grout line that matches the rest. And that gives it a real clean, polished finish. That's something you always got to include and, or think about with these acrylic windows is when it's rebated in, you're going to be able to see into the pool shell. So if you haven't prepped the inside correctly, you're going to see that. So it's all waterproofed into the rebate. This silicone here is purely cosmetic. It's just to fill the gap. But once again, important to have that finish real nicely and not so it doesn't look ugly. Like anything, you can't say everything's going to last forever. It's a waterproof silicone-based product that's meant for this situation. We got cold water here, we got heat here, right? So it's going to expand, contract. So that's actually why we leave the silicone a little bit short of where we paint up to the acrylic window. Because if you don't do that, it'll actually expand over where you've painted and then contract and strip it off. Yes, it will last, the life of the pool. However, over time, these things are always going to get brittle, being silicone out in the hot sun. You can't ever fully protect yourself against the harsh Queensland sun. So those are things that are over time will have to be maintained. So we could have just squared off these steps into the pool as per a normal pool, but we didn't. And that was down to the design of the developer, so credit to them. they actually had the curves going into the steps. So you can see that adds a real nice layer, and it actually softens the pool a bit, and as opposed to like looking harsh and square. So you still got the nice square pool, but just softening those edges of the steps gives it that, you know, elevated luxury. And it's a bit more effort tiling and shaping the concrete, but I think it really adds to the overall effect of the pool. These returns, as you can see, they're disturbing the water surface now. They're actually pushing towards the skimmer, which is in the corner, which makes sure all this debris, which you can see now, I've got a couple of bugs and leaves, which is inevitable. It'll push it all to the skimmer and make sure it's cleaned up properly before it has a chance to sink to the bottom. You're always going to get a little bit of debris and dirt on the bottom, but you want to minimize that as much as possible so you're not out here cleaning it every day. I'm already getting hot. So this is a cool little nook for the pump and filter. Granted, it's not going to be the easiest to get in and out and service it. However, a lot of times you've got pools with empty cavities anyways next to them, because, you know, you normally block up a pool and then you've got a garden bed or something on top of that. There's always wasted space in these areas. So what we've done here is actually fit the pump and filter into it. A really good solution, because number one, you want to minimize the pipe run from the pool to the plant and equipment. And number two, you don't want to see that, let's be honest. The reason we have pipes close to the pool is because the longer the pipe run, the harder the pump's going to have to work. The harder the pump's going to have to work, the faster it runs out. So we always want to minimize the distance, and that also avoids you having to upgrade pumps just to actually get the pressure rates that you need. So it's worked out really well here, where we've just tapped straight from the pool into the pump and filter room. And we've actually managed to fit a glass media filter in here, which we had planned for, not a cartridge filter. So it's a little bit bigger, but I've gotten a smaller model, which is a CA300, which is the standard model is a CA400. However, with a pool this size, this is going to be more than enough. So overall, really good result to fit the pump and filter inside this little nook. And it's away from, you know, eyesight when people are out here chilling. And two, it's actually going to keep the noise down, because, you know, that's the two major things when you're looking at pumps and filters. One, the noise. Two, how it looks. Oh yeah, that's better. It just turned off for me. So yeah, kind of tight in here, but there's more than enough room. We've got our chlorinator up here, which is how you control the pool. Got the pump, and then this is a glass media filter that I was just talking about. So basically these are just a plastic filter that you pour fine and coarse glass into. So the way it works is it goes through that and filters through the coarse and then fine glass, and then that'll return to the pool through the salt cell, which is this. That's what actually chlorinates the pool and causes a chemical reaction with the magnesium salt or chloride. And then you have the pool light. Always a good idea. See how we've got a tap here? If you don't have an auto tap up in the pool, which most commercial pools do, it's always a good idea having a tap here, or even just if you want to clean around the pool or just top it up quickly. I always recommend a tap in the pump and filter area. Most of the time, the architects will nominate where the pump and filter will go, and then they'll kind of just say, have we got enough, you know, what they call spatial for it. Most of the time we do, but it can be real creative with pumps and filters. Like here, we really condensed it, which just means a bit of fancy plumbing, but at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world to make it fit. You know, I've done things like mount pumps on walls where I've had to. That being said, you know, this space here is probably, you know, 900 by 900, and we fit the whole thing in. So for a small pool, that works, but say we have a heater here, we'd have to put it somewhere separate. And the glass media filter, we've done a bit smaller here to fit in, which is going to be more than enough to filter it, but they don't come any smaller than this. Something you can use as opposed to a cartridge filter, which a lot of people will use when it's really tight, because they're a lot smaller and the diameter is a lot less. They're about the same height. The problem with cartridge filters, they've got filters in them that you have to take out, hose off every time you clean the pool. Best thing about glass media filters is you rinse it first, then you backwash it, and that cleans it. Maintenance wise, glass media filters, if I'm doing a pool, I don't want a cartridge filter, but when you absolutely must, you can put them in. I always try and push for the glass media filters for the building managers or strata trying to, you know, maintain the building long term. That's why you have pressure gauges on glass media filters. So if your pressure is abnormally high on the glass media filter on the pressure gauge, you're going to know it needs a backwash, or if it's really old, you need to replace the whole thing. This salt chlorinator, I've had over the years a couple of issues with, say, it'll be outside in direct sunlight and the sun will be hitting that screen all day. And eventually what happens is the screen will fade, and then you won't be able to read like the pool's on and off or anything on the screen. Keep it in the shade, or at least cover the screen with a cloth. So these are variable speed pumps, which basically means it has 3 speeds. So something I always like to do when I'm backwashing, so it's on high now because it's just turned on, but I'll turn it on low. And that just lowers the flow rate a lot, right? And when I'm backwashing, I put it on low, because if you put it on high, it just goes and spurts out everywhere. Especially on like a building like this, if you're pissing out water, you're gonna have fucking water problems. So always put it on low, then backwash. But apart from that, you know, you can just press these buttons and take it back to high whenever you want, or low, but mainly control the pull through the chlorinator. Once again, see that's got a clear screen, cover that up because it'll go as well. Basically we use the best pump so you can manage the actual flow rates. Like you can set the high, medium and low. But pumps themselves are pretty standard things, you know, they just suck water and return it. Yeah, 3 penthouses. We've got 3 penthouses, 3 pools, all different sizes and combinations. When we deliver them, we put the hose in, fill it up, and then we'll come in and chemically balance it, get the pool running and on timers. So basically, as soon as we're done, then it's pretty much good to go for at least a month. And then you know you can always kick in with your regular servicing from there on. But we take it from bare shell to running swimmable. It's not just here's the product, you fill it up and good luck. So we have a division which is, you know, chemical balancing and pool maintenance, which we offer to most developers after the pool's finished. So we'll hand it over and say it's good for a month as part of our contract, and then we always offer, you know, a long-term contract with the building managers or body corporate to continually maintain the pool. Most people find it a lot easier than trying to outsource someone who didn't build the pools. So keeping that all in-house for us really helps, along with if we ever have an issue, you know, say a light goes out, which inevitably does, let's be honest, we can come back and replace that immediately, as opposed to trying to go through, you know, your pool servicing guy and then he's got to contact me, and then, you know, so it streamlines the process a lot more, and we can be on top of warranty items and all that stuff when we are, you know, contracted to look after pools long term. You want a pool that when you take people up, say you're going to buy this, you know, really nice penthouse, you take people up and they go, oh wow, did you see their massive pool window? Like, it's an awesome feature to add to any pool. Yes, it's expensive, but it looks good. And you know, when you're looking into the pool, like this is literally a cross section of a pool, you know? If this is just normal, you know, pool wall, you look down and into the pool, it looks nice, but to get a cross section of a whole pool in its entirety is dope. So I love the pool window and happy to do them. The thing is with these, it may just look like 3 penthouse pools, right? You know, 1, 2, 3, bang them out, but everyone was so different in its own way, like different size, shape, depths. Each one had to be considered as its own entity. See those in there? How we've gone from a straight tile into a little curve, the 45. It's a real nice way to soften it. Like, because you could just square these straight down, then straight into a tile. We decided to look a lot nicer if we run a 45 into it, and then, you know, it gives it that nice soft look that goes into the curves of the benches. The concrete was prepped at a 90, you know, straight. So we could have just run with that and went straight up, which is a lot of time what we do, but we decided just to give that a nice little 45 angle to give it that nice flow into the curved benches. If this was just a standard square pool with square benches, I wouldn't have done that. It would have looked weird. So the base of the pool and this whole podium roof is all waterproofed before the pool goes in. And then we put the acoustics down, we spray the shell, put the steel in, spray the shell, and then we waterproof the pools on top of that, and then we tile it. So that's best practice when it comes to rooftop pools. Sometimes people will say, all right, well, we'll just waterproof the base of the pool and then spray the pool and it'll be right. Basically, it's a fail-safe. If you've got the bottom waterproofed, then you're waterproofing the shell, you got double protection. That's what was done here, and that's what's done on every rooftop pool we do. And clearly this acrylic window is a critical part, which is all waterproofed in, which has to be water tested prior to, you know, tiling and filling it up. So there's a process there. So you've got the pool shell itself, the concrete, that's gonna have to set for 4 weeks. Then you've got the acrylic window. Once you put that and waterproof it, you have to let that sit for a few weeks. And then on top of that, you're gonna have to waterproof the pool, fill the pool up before any tiling and stuff is done, and test this acrylic window for a week. You have to leave that and check for leaks, and then drain it again, then tile. So logistically, there's a bit more involved in this when it comes to timeframes, but it's important to follow the processes, 1, to maintain your warranty, and 2, to make sure it's not going to leak when you've already tiled it, and then you're going to have to start ripping up tiles and things. So, which is hard when you've got a deadline to reach, and you've got set milestones that you have to adhere to for, you know, curing times and to ensure this is going to last the test of time. So balancing that is really important, then just throwing weather on top of that. Yeah, at the end of the day, nothing runs like clockwork, but you got to just prepare your best to make it happen in time. Being a smaller pool, people aren't really going to swim laps in here. They're more likely to kind of sit and chill out. And it's not over a main living area underneath. It's on pads. The other 2 are on pads too. So this is the communal pool. This will be used by all the residents. The other 2 are private pools. So when it's a private pool, you normally can get away with just acoustic pads, because If you're using the pool, it's very unlikely you're downstairs listening to yourself use the pool. When it comes to, you know, private residences, you can just use pads, which is probably the bare minimum, because you can get away with that when timing, say it's annoying, you know, your daughter or son or wife, you just get out of the pool, right? But when it's a communal pool, you can't control when people are coming, going and swimming. So that's when you normally have to look at springs or a high level pad. This has got a thicker pad system to absorb more vibration. It is a communal pool and we do have residents below. However, it's not over a main living area or anything like that. This one was fine for pads on a high performing system. Generally speaking, when you have a larger communal pool, you're always going to want that on springs because people are going to be in there all day, all night. Like there's a polymer system, there's rubber systems, each having their own, you know, frequencies and performance requirements. It depends on your acoustic engineer, and the specifications for each pool can change. A lot of the time it'll be rubber mounts, which are about 200 by 200 wide, placed through the pool, and then the whole pool will be sitting on what we call bond deck or fibro cement sheet. So you lay all those pads down, then you'll have your sheeting over the top, whether it be bond decked or fibro cement, and then you'll bend all the steel on top of that, and then you spray on top of that. So the whole pool will be sitting on the acoustic isolation. And the other thing is we have what we call lateral restraints, which runs around the whole width of the pool. So we can't have the pool being connected to the surround structure, because imagine in an earthquake environment, it's just gonna hit it and crack. There's hard lateral restraint pads, which go around the pool in specific spots. And then we run a foam around the whole width of the pool too, to keep it a shear face to connect it to, because you can't have one area, what we call point loading the pool over another. So that has to be uniform joint all the way around the pool, and the pool has to be a separate entity to everything around it. Because, you know, imagine swishing water, and yeah, the ones recently in Thailand, you've seen the videos, the water's going whoosh, whoosh, you know, if you don't have the springs or acoustics or lateral restraints, it's going to cause structural damage to the whole building.